this episode is gonna be about Tim Ferriss and what he thinks about being famous and being not famous, so the pros and the cons. And yeah, I'll see you after the intro. And with that being said, hello and welcome back to the next episode of the Self-Development with Tactics podcast. And as you maybe can see, I am just here. No, but the setup is slightly different because I've just restructured my space here a tiny little bit, so at least my desk and how I'm just placing things, because my desk is actually pretty big, but I'm always having this TV in front of me, which is now on this side. So yeah, well, anyway. And I do just have more space just in front of me, which just lets me able to put my PC further away from me, which is good for the audio probably, I guess, because it's hopefully not picking up that much noise, or at least not as much as it did before, especially if I could also be doing it just even further away. The downside is that I do just have to do this to grab my fucking keyboard, but since it is a podcast, I think it is just quite fine. Quite fine. And I'm just having clothes all over the place so that there's not going to be any bounce back, that the audio is good, and yeah. Anyway, please check out the description. The most important part there is the notes. I'm highlighting certain things, and these things are going to be in a summary, and you can download the summary for free in the link in the description. It's the notes. Notes there. You should read it, notes, or you can read notes, and there it is. Well, yeah. Let's see. So this is the stuff that I've highlighted yesterday, because I've already went through it yesterday. And now we are here, because now we are here in 2020. Monthly audience is larger than the size of New York City. New York City. For fun, Google New York City and click on news. On some level, those are the dynamics, good and bad, you will need to deal with if your audience is that large. Well, I mean, the news is a fucked up space because there's often like only negative bullshit, and I hate that. But on the other hand, I do just have a feeling that I should read the news, because I'm clearly not doing this at this point in time, but I should. I really should, because I think it is important. I think it is important to know what's going on in the world, especially if it is on a worldwide just basis. If I just have to know what's going on in Austria, like maybe in Europe, but I don't, well, yeah, anyway, I think it's good. But let's assume you only have 100 or 1,000 followers. You should still wonder at any given time how many of these people might go off their mats, and how many of their remaining folks will simply wake up on the wrong side of the bed today, feeling the need to lash out at someone. The answer will never be zero. Potentially, yes. Theory, no. I guess. I'm actually not quite sure. Like, chances are not really high that there's going to be like a zero. But on the other hand, why shouldn't there be not a zero? Like, I don't know if it is statistically, if you can say that. Well, anyway. On the darker side, some very real issues. To quote Henry David Thoreau, or it is Henri David Thoreau or something. The cost of a thing is the amount of what I will call life, which is required to be exchanged for it immediately or in the long run, which is actually a pretty good quote. I think with that in mind, let's look at some very common downsides of exposure. Nearly all of my friends who have audiences of 1 million or more have personal stories for every category I'll describe. If you've ever wondered why many celebrities disappear for a period of time, sometimes years, it is often in the hopes that the below will fade or go away. Sadly, it is very hard to put the toothpaste back in the toothpaste tub once you have a large Google footprint. Well, yeah. I actually like that metaphor there. Best to be aware in advance, here be dragons. Well, stalkers, which is the first point. One example to set the tone. Back when I lived in San Francisco, a fan on the East Coast thought I was sending him secret personalized messages embedded in my public Facebook posts. He believed I was asking him to move into my house and work for me. He told his coworkers, who were worried he would go postal, so they reported him to the CEO who reached out to me. It was a close call and I got lucky. This particular employee had already bought plane tickets for the following week, intending to fly to San Francisco to find me. I got the FBI involved. His family staged an intervention and is it lo or io and lo and behold. What does that mean? Or is it like it used to draw attention to an interesting or amazing event? Lo. I've never ever heard this word. Never ever in my whole entire fucking life. Lo. And lo. Or is it lo? Lo. This is probably not, well, what? Leo. Is it Leo? Leo. Whatever. And behold, he has gone off of his meds for psychiatric disorders. Another example from 2008, a year after my first book came out, that's when the first person showed up at my door looking for me. I just closed on my first home, a cute little townhouse near Sunnyvale, California, I guess, isn't it? The random visits didn't happen sooner as I'd been renting up to that point. Many more people followed. My little townhouse was cute, but it was totally unprotected. No gate, no nothing. Eventually, one male stalker ended up hanging out in front of my house non-stop, taking pictures and posting them on social media with comments like, "Too bad Tim Ferriss isn't at home. I missed him again." What the fuck? Things snowballed from there and I had to sell the house and move. When traveling, I've also had to stop posting photos to social media until well after the fact. Why? I've had people triangulate the city I'm visiting, call every hotel in the city to ask for a registered guest with my last name, and then fly to the country to find me and or my family. I've since learned to use pseudonyms, but we'll get to that later. Well, it actually, I mean, I do honestly have to say, like, of course there have to be some downsides, but it is just really strange. On the other hand, these true fans, and if you also know what I'm referring to, you probably find that funny or something. Or maybe even not, because it's actually not funny. And I mean, like, these are the true fans, and they are gonna buy every fucking thing that you're doing. Like, they are just really... I mean, on one hand, this is an issue. It really is. But it could also just be like the thriving motion of your progress or your business or your whatever. Death threats. I get regular death threats, and this is common for public figures. I would estimate I get at least one per month via some channel. Sometimes they're related to extortion, coming later, but they're most often from people who are mentally unstable. What are they angry about? Once again, therein lies the rub. It is rarely in response to anything that I've said or done that is the scariest thing, and it is also why the tribe village city metaphor is so apt. The people sending death threats are normally suffering from psychotic episodes, and there is nothing you can do to prevent them. One example, a few years ago, I received a text message from an unknown number with, "I know what you did, and I'm going to make you pay." I have no idea how they got my number, but it went on and on in nebulous terms. I engaged and took screenshots trying to figure out who it was and what the hell was going on. Since they kept texting, I was able to gather that it was a woman or someone claiming to be, and she said, "You humiliated me, and now it is your turn for pain. I know you're speaking at SXSW, and everyone is going to know and see." Fortunately, I had enough data to get lawyers, private investigators, and law enforcement involved. It also meant that I had armed security at SXSW that year, and I was constantly on pins and needles, waiting for the other shoe to drop. So, in the end, did I learn who it was? I did. It was a middle-aged mother living in rural Texas with her husband and 2 kids. I never met her nor had any contact with her. Which is a strange thing. Like, it is like, I mean, especially I think in terms of Ferriss. By the way, I should also just mention this one. By the way, I don't actually know if I'm allowed to do that. Well, I'm always just crediting everyone. I'm also talking about it, and I know it. I'm also addressing that I might not be allowed to do that, since I'm kind of republishing this. But But yeah, I hope by the way this is okay, because I do want to provide slightly shorter versions of. Well, I'm actually kind of. Well, I'm leaving out not such a lot of things, to be honest. I am not. Just months before this happened, two well-known YouTubers in Austin, Texas had a fan drive 11 hours from New Mexico to their city with a car full of guns. He intended to kill at least one of them. He broke into their home at 4 a.m. and hunted for them from room to room, a .55 caliber handgun in hand. They hid in a closet and frantically called 911 or 911. It's not 911, it's 911. From related media coverage, they are a popular Texas couple in YouTube or on YouTube, but they never thought that would put their lives in danger. That is until an Albuquerque stalker showed up at their house in the middle of the night with a gun and bad intentions. Fortunately, police arrived and the intruder ended up dead. But it couldn't have easily ended differently. In some cases, the intended targets gets blown away before they even realize what's happening. Ironically, it is often the diehard fans professing love who kill them, not haters of any type. Which is I think understandable to some degree, but on the other hand is like really a contradictory thing in the end. But I gotta have to say, like, if it is already you don't intend, and this is actually the point that I was willing to make before, like, you don't intend to just be a bad person. You don't even intend to just do something bad. And especially if you just think about people like Tim Ferriss, like, he's only doing good, I guess. I don't know what he's doing in his leisure time and shit. Nobody's like just perfect and shit, and nobody's like holy and some stuff. But he's just providing pretty good content and pretty necessary and pretty important things, and he's addressing good things and good causes, and he's donating and he's doing shit and whatnot. And I don't know, it's not like such a clickbait shit, which I think I can understand it a little tiny bit more than if you do just can get angry at that. But of course, like, you can get angry at quite everyone, I guess. Just because of, okay, he's successful or she's successful, and therefore I'm angry because I'm jealous, and because of other things, maybe also psychiatric episodes and all these things. Given away how often I get threats and how truly dangerous it can be, I decided to get a concealed carry permit and carry concealed firearms. I wanted to avoid this, and I wish it weren't the case, but here we are. P.S. Thanks for the fragile round recommendation, Choco. Fragile round. Fragile. No, I do actually want to see what it is. Oh, we can. Fragile. No, I'm sorry, it's not fragile, it's frangible bullet. Frangible bullets are intended to disintegrate into tiny particles upon target impact to minimize their penetration of other objects. Small particles are slowed more rapidly by not target environments like air resistance and are less likely to cause injury or damage to persons and objects distant from the point of bullet impact. A sequence of photos showing a frangible bullet fracturing when subjected to high velocity strain waves. I see. Frangible bullets may be lighter and longer than conventional bullets of the same caliber. By the way, I do for once have to say, like, first of all, they look like a fucking pencil, at least the left test one, but they all look like just, like, really not good manufactured and shit. But I know that one of them can kill. Easily. Most frangible bullets are subject to brittle failure upon striking a hard target. The mechanism has been used to minimize the tendency of malleable lead and copper bullets to blah 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 blah. But I think this is good. So as far as I know, it's gonna hurt, but it's not gonna kill or something. It's better. This is what I've gotten out of it. But it is bad. I also trained my girlfriend to use a taser, which relates to the next category. I mean, like, I know that he's having girlfriends, that he's also breaking up with them and shit. As far as I know, as far as I kind of feel like it, I don't know. Like, I don't want to say I don't know, I'm sorry, I don't know. But he's sometimes talking about girlfriends, and this kind of leads me to the assumption that he's had multiple ones, which is not a bad thing. But I guess in such a way, which is going to also be in the next point there, it is a fucked up thing. Because you have to fucking teach them how to use a fucking taser just because you're a quote-unquote public figure. Like, this is insane and fucked up. But I mean, we all have to sleep in the bed that we have built for ourselves, isn't it? The case. Harassment of family members and loved ones. There are at least two categories of people who will want to find you. Fundamentally nice people, albeit over-enthusiastic, and fundamentally malevolent, malevolent or malevolent. What is it? She shot malicious, spiteful, hostile, evil-minded people. I hate to put it that way, but I've learned that there are people in this world who derive great pleasure from hurting or threatening others. Apparently, yes. Unfortunately, yes. If either group can't easily get to you, whether to find you or harm you, they will often go after your family and loved ones. Like, this must be I mean, I do just imagine, like, it is a great place, you're living in a great place, you're having a good house, you're having a good bed. If you know what I'm referring to, just please comment. It's amazing. Well, I'm actually going to tell you, there's The Future, which is a design channel, and then, well, they say teaching the business of design, I think. And it is all about business, and it is also about design, which is a great resource. And there was a really good speech or a pretty good video, which was about gratitude. If you Google gratitude and the future with FUTUR, that's it, no E, this is the point. You're gonna find it, and then you know what I mean by a good bad or good bad. Yeah, well, anyway. But I mean, like, I do just remember my fucking family, like, they're just living somewhere and somebody finds them, harasses them. Like, they don't have anything to do with me, first of all, but they're an easy target, so I don't know. Like, it must be a fucked up thing. Like, I don't know, I think this just explains why those really famous people are just living in fucking castles with security and shit. Like, for example, Kevin Hart, he, like, a bunch of people robbed a lot of things from his house and shit, and now he's having fucking security. I mean, yeah, good and bad sides, I guess. If they're an attacker, they will go for what they perceive to be your weakest link. This is precisely why I never mention the names of my closest friends or girlfriends unless they are public figures figures already. Of all the issues in this point, this is the one that upsets me the most. In some respects, I invited this upon myself with my decisions, but none of my loved ones asked for it. Even to write about this aspect makes me furious, so I'll keep this bullet short. Well, actually, yes, addressing it. It's also a dangerous thing, kind of. Dating horse. No, it's not horse, but it's whose misery. Well, as you might imagine, dating can be quagmire of liabilities and bad traps. It could be someone hoping to write a clickbait article about that date with you, obviously without disclosing such. Or it could be much worse. If you're a female, this is where things can once again become physically dangerous. If you're a male, this is where things can become legally dangerous. There are many predators for both sides, and it can make you lose your faith in humanity. Seems to be the case that he's already had like experiences with that, which is also like a fucked up thing, and I can also imagine that. Yeah, you know, I think the upside is if you're really famous, you can fuck whatever and whomever. You know, chances are way higher that you're gonna get somebody just to fuck. Just said like that. But I mean, like, yeah, downsides. These are definitely downsides, and there are definitely gonna be downsides. Extortion attempts. I could write an entire blog post about this topic. One simple example: in 2019, my team and I received a threat in a sense: pay me X or I will DDoS your site. Since a DDoS is technically is a technological attack on a website, and I'm confident in the strength of the automatic hosting infrastructure, we decided not to respond. The extortionist didn't like our silence and replied with a bomb threat. This was shortly after the Austin serial bombings, which had killed 2 people, so I escalated to forensic analysis, investigators, law enforcement, etc. Which, by the way, it's also expensive. You know, I mean, he's having the money. He's having the money. But no, unnecessary bullshit. I've been very good at tracking down extortionists, which is something that I've also thought about. Like, he got the woman, he got the other, just people and shit. Like, you can. I don't negotiate with terrorists, and I'm more than happy to have public battles if I'm in the right. But it is all a huge energy suck. The most common form of extortion is Is it actually extortion? Yeah, extortion. Extortion, what does it mean? Blackmail. Yeah, of course. We have just really recently had that in school, in class. But I just tend to forget about things that I don't use. So, extortion is some variety of, unless you give me X, I'm going to say Y about you. Fortunately, I spent years deliberately talking about controversial topics and disclosing uncomfortable personal stories. In part, this hasn't been to avoid the temptation to create a sneaky, clean public persona. It also robs would-be extortionists of a lot of common ammo. Yeah. I mean, like, I do also think about how I would be dealing with that. But I think also in terms of that, like, I don't know. I believe that if people just watch every single fucking video of mine, they know quite a lot of shit about me. Like, there is such a lot of shit, such a lot of content as well outside there. Like, it is insane. Totally is insane. If you don't have your own ammo, this category can be catastrophic. In other words, if you have more fame than resources, you paint yourself into a vulnerable corner. If you have fewer options and fewer allies, you'll be attractive to predators. Definitely. I actually do want to read more of kidnapping. Well, it's actually so interesting. I might be just reading it after the episode, after I finished it. Well, desperation messages and pleas for help, or place. Is it place or please? Appeal, application. This is a sad category, much like the suicide video story in the introduction to this piece. It is one thing to get an "I committed suicide and I'm letting you know" note, which is absolutely awful. It is quite another to get a message with something like, "You're my last hope. I have no else to ask. If you can help me with X, Y, and Z in the next 48 hours, I'm going to kill myself." I've received dozens of these. In the beginning, I tried to help everyone and became horribly enmeshed. This never failed to end in misery and countless sleeping nights or sleepless nights. Now, the senders of such notes are referred to suicide hotlines, for example, which is a US 1-800-273-8255. A list of international hotlines, alternative link, and a post I wrote entitled "Some Practical Thoughts on Suicide." I owe many thanks to Violet Blood for her moral and technical support with many of these situations. Thank you, Violet. This is very rough terrain. The more you operate in the world of how to advise, and the more vulnerable you are with your audience, the more of these you will receive. Yes, and I do believe that this is definitely something that is scary. In terms of like it could really be exhausting. Like, I don't want anybody to fucking die. I really don't. And I would also just try to help. But in the end, it's like, you maybe can't. You know, at least not in such a degree as you would like to. I mean, like, you could fly out to everyone, but no, you could. It is a fucked up thing. It really is. But I guess that this is going to be the end of the episode. I do have a feeling that the setup is making things better. Maybe I should change up things a little bit more often, to some degree. But yeah, I hope you've liked the episode. And because I've also liked the episode, which is not always the case. Actually, you know, I do just also have to see how I can change things so that I like it more and so that I can just keep doing it. Because But on the other hand, it's quite of a funny thing that I'm reading shit, and I don't like reading shit. But still, I've liked this episode, and I've really liked talking about this. Also the other one. Maybe just, I don't know. But yeah, anyway. I wish you the best health of happiness and also success, and also hope that you're gonna remind yourself and you're gonna be remembered, which basically means your legacy, and basically means just being a nice person and then being remembered as a nice person. 3 other questions that I'm having for you are: why are you here? What are you trying to change? And what is bothering you the most? These 3 questions are hopefully gonna show you your purpose and maybe even a business idea. And yeah, with that being said, you might even subscribe to the podcast and or to the YouTube channel, and I would definitely appreciate that. But yeah, I might see you the next time. So, bye. See you. Have a nice day. See you after this thing ended. The episode, because it's already not working, or again not working. But I'm gonna read this stuff. Actually really interesting. I think it's also really actually not that long. I think we're gonna finish it up in the next episode or something. Probably. Yes.